Hello.
Hi, how are you?
We're Liver and Lung.
And we're a theatre company interested in telling your story.
Said you loved me. Or were you just being...
So Liver and Lung is a half Malaysian, half British theatre company. We are interested in telling fabulous stories across genre. We touch musical theatre, we touch plays, but the most important thing is that we tell stories that are cross-cultural and take the best from both the East and the West.
So we had a lot of projects planned for this year, but due to the circumstances and the nature of what's going on in the world, we promised not to dwell too much on the C word, but we have found the process challenging, and it has meant that we've had to, pivot what our plan and our roadmap for 2020 was. So we thought we'd maybe talk a bit about that to you today.
2020 was supposed to be this incredible year. We had a really good year in 2019. Right, Hannah?
Yeah.
We did 6 musicals, namely Shafeeq the Musical, and then we did the Malaya Relived series, and then we ended it up with Frankenstein, a digital adaptation. So we had a really amazing year in 2019, and it was propelling us with all this momentum into 2020, which was supposed to be this incredible year, and then this happened.
So we had a lot of bookings for international festivals, including in Edinburgh, in Scotland, and also the Black Box Festival in Macau. So we had this kind of global thing happening, but obviously we've had to pivot and adjust to that. So we want to make sure that we're constantly innovating, and we want to make sure that we're being as creative as possible during this time, and that can be quite challenging.
We realized that the most important thing to do is, now that we couldn't use audience ticket selling or productions as a way to measure our organization's or Liver and Lung's success, we thought that the next best thing to do was to increase digital maturity and to increase our digital presence. So we quickly pivoted, really, to producing digital content. Now, that's a difficult migration for a theatre company like us. At Liver and Lung, because theatre is such an organic and immersive experience, really the experiences that we're used to and habituated to creating are quite analog, they're quite organic, and they're quite social. So moving to a digital landscape was always going to be a challenge for us. But then I think what Hannah and I kind of decided or came to the conclusion to was the fact that at the end of the day, what we are storytellers. And digital channels are just channels. At the end of the day, we decided to still keep our brand as storytellers. So what did we do, Hannah?
So we've ventured into lots of different types of media. I think the one that probably is the most different for us is podcast. So we launched a new podcast on the first day of lockdown, which is now 28 days ago. I can't believe it, but we've been in the same 4 walls for that amount of time. And we decided to create a podcast which is called Finding Fabulous. We then launched it on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, almost as like a diary. It's about how we're feeling, and also to talk about the subjects which we wanted to talk about and we hope would be useful for our listeners. So that included storytelling, that included the importance of creativity and how we come to develop principles around that. And also we ended each episode with a bit of fun, which was our idol of the day, and that was women and people who've inspired us.
The inspiration behind the podcast, I guess, was COVID-19. I think as the world changes and disrupts itself around us, we really wanted to use the podcast as a period for us personally and intimately to reflect and to think about the different themes that we've encountered in our life experiences. I think being creative is definitely a big part of the Liver and Lung brand. So we wanted to share our best practices and our design principles on how to be creative with different people. And it's been a hit. I think loads of people have expressed a lot of interest in our podcast. I think it's nice to see 2 really good friends talk and chat and share our vulnerabilities and share our dreams and aims with everyone.
I think it's also been nice for the people who probably know us a little bit more closely and intimately as well, because they might not be able to hear our voices every day, but through the podcast they can. So it's also got a nice intimate element to it as well, which has been good. And then, so that's podcast channels. If we pivot to, should we go do YouTube?
Yeah, so we've obviously then also tried to increase our YouTube presence. Now, YouTube is a very different game. I think Hannah and I are 27 this year. Are you 27 this year?
27, yeah.
And we suddenly feel quite mature because we've realized that we've kind of lost touch with, I guess, the forefront of digital enablement. We don't know the best practices when it comes to tagging, or when it comes to hashtagging, or when it comes to thumbnail editing.
And storytelling for screen in general is something that we're definitely learning and pushing forward in our own creative practices.
For sure. So yeah, YouTube was this huge kind of like pivot for us, and we decided to increase our YouTube channel awareness. So we went from having a channel that was very static and very kind of regressive, it was very much a portfolio of our previous work, to now a channel where we are creating content dynamically every day, and it's going well. We're doing what the young kids are doing. We're reacting to different musical theatre videos of musical theatre dances. Hannah's a choreographer, I'm a composer/director, so you bringing the skills that we've always been honing to a digital landscape.
Yeah, I think it's also bringing new audiences to Liver and Lung. So theatre traditionally may cordon off certain sections of society. People don't feel like they can either afford to come, or they don't feel like it's a place where they can feel comfortable in. But YouTube is much more, I guess, full.
Yeah,
in that sense, anybody
there are
can
no
access
barriers.
it. So I think from that we've brought new people and introduced new people to Liver and Lung and what we're about, which is also good, as well as retaining our existing users,
and new people from a geographic perspective, because anyone can access the Liver and Lung YouTube channel, but also from a demographic perspective, right? Like, I think traditionally people who come to the theatre are, our shows tend to attract 30 plus, 40-year-old matured audiences who speak English. Now we're attracting 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds who maybe, and also people who with less economically advantageous backgrounds, because theatre at the end of the day is a privileged product, is a privileged service. To be able to pay 70 ringgit, 80 ringgit for a ticket to a theatre show it's a privileged thing to do, whereas now when we're creating YouTube content, it's completely ubiquitous, it's free for everyone to go.
And that's in Malaysia. So in the UK, we've predominantly operated in London, so it's quite, I guess, a young audience, quite a millennial skew. So again, we are able to go wider afield with that. And also go back to our foundings, which is that we are a British and Malaysian theatre company. We want to learn from each culture, and we want to, although retain a local influence, make sure that the ideas and the stories we are telling have a global relevance, and YouTube and things like that are allowing us to do that.
Yeah, so I think hopefully post-corona, we will take the lessons learned from this period and embed it with our traditional services a little bit more. Yeah. I don't think we were, digitally immature or not native before, but this has just forced us to embark on the digitization journey a little bit more.
Absolutely. I think you have to use it. There's a phrase going around which is like time standing still, and I think there's positive and negative connotations to that phrase, but I think it's definitely an incubation period where you're allowed to fail almost, because the world isn't going at the pace that we're used to going at. So if things don't work, that's fine. You can stop, you can start again. It's okay to do something for 2 days and then think, gosh, no, that's not good for my health, or that's not working.
And you would never get this opportunity in a pre-corona world, because you wouldn't be allowed to fail. The economic opportunity cost to you failing is too high. Every time you do a YouTube video that may fail, or a podcast episode that may fail, you could have done a 70-minute musical and made loads of money.
Exactly. And your time as well. We've now got an expense of time, so we're using that to our best advantages. Okay, so thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed hearing us and putting a face to a name in terms of Liver and Lung. Please do follow us on Facebook at Liver and Lung Productions. Please do follow us on Instagram at liver_and_lung. We're also on TikTok because we're very Gen Z, or at least try to be Gen Z, and also on YouTube, we're Liver and Lung Productions. The podcast, you can subscribe, please like, comment, and also rate us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Exactly. Have a lovely day, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Goodbye.